was to break through. The objective of the land campaign will be to take this plateau called the Khalid Bahar Plateau. It's a high, massive overlooking the Dardanelles. And when you stand on top of that thing and you look to the east, you look at the forts down along here, you're essentially looking down about 200 meters, 600 feet above them into the backsides of these forts. So as the campaign planning goes along, Ian Hamilton, the Allied commander, determines, well, we don't have to assault the forts directly. If we seize the high ground above the forts, then we dominate them and they have to evacuate or fall under heavy shell fire. That's his plan. There are things called the principles of war that soldiers deal with: mass, maneuver, objective. One of the principles of war is simplicity, for obvious reasons. This defies the principle of war of simplicity. The British under Ian Hamilton have 70,000 guys on ships. They're floating around, and they're all trying to do different things simultaneously. I won't bore you with the details of the plan itself, but the main effort will obviously be down here at the tip of the peninsula. There'll be a supporting effort up here going in with the Anzacs. And then there's this other stuff that's going on. You got the French landing here briefly at Kum Tepe. You've got the Royal Naval Division floating around here doing a diversion. What's it all about? It's all about trying to confuse and deceive Lehman von Sanders as to where the main attack is going in. So what this is all about is there's so many things going on simultaneously that the defenders will be confused for a period of at least 48 hours. So this builds a time window for Ian Hamilton of 48 hours to get ashore, to get enough people in the right place to where he can take his objectives and move on the Khalid Bahar Plateau. There are Russians, there's a Russian ship here, there are French, there are Algerians, there are Australians, New Zealanders, British. It's a joint and multinational operation. It's been put together in less than 30 days. If you were going to have a conference, academic conference, you would start that probably 9-10 months out to invite people from all over the world. Imagine trying to bring in 70,000 people from all over the world in 30 days time. I mean, it's awesome what they did. That's what Ian Hamilton's army looks like. There are Australians and New Zealanders in the famous Anzac. There are British regulars in the 29th Infantry Division, commanded by Hunter Weston. These guys, 200 years ago, would have worn red coats. Ah, thank you. They are British regulars. They are the finest individually trained soldiers in the world. Hamilton has the utmost confidence in them, and he makes them his main effort. So he's going to pick this group of people to hit his most important point. There are sailors in uniform, in khaki uniforms, who have no place on ships, and Churchill forms them into a Royal Naval Infantry Division. There are French guys coming over from North Africa. Hamilton doesn't quite trust them. He knows he can't trust them because they're untrained sailors, not soldiers. So this is a mixed bag. This is a mixed bag. It's a powerful force in numbers. So it's a powerful force quantitatively. It's not necessarily a powerful force qualitatively. It's very uneven in its training. This is what Hamilton's plan looks like. The main effort, that 29th Division, is going to go in at the tip of the peninsula at Cape Helles and is going to drive on Achibaba. It's a high ground about 4 or 5 miles north of the beaches, and that's the initial position from where we're going to hit the Khalid Bahar Plateau. At the same time, the 29th Division comes in at the tip of the peninsula. The Australians go in at Anzac Beach in what we call in military terms a supporting effort. And the object there is to cut the peninsula in half. So this is the plan, 48 hours. At the end of 48 hours, D plus 48, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be on Achibaba, I'm going to bring in the French to help me, and I'm going to cut the peninsula in half. We know all plans don't survive contact with the enemy. This is one of those plans. It also rests on some tactical assumptions. Those assumptions I showed you previously are strategic assumptions. At the tactical level, at the warfighter level, we've got 48 hours to win, to be in this position. We can replace field artillery with naval gunfire. One Brit's worth 10 of them, and the Ottomans. The Ottomans' will collapse quickly. What happens after 48 hours? Then we move on to seize the Klud Bahar Plateau, and game over. So that's how it's supposed to work. It doesn't work that way. Cape Helles, the first landings at the tip of the peninsula. I'm going to focus on V Beach and W Beach. All these beaches have designations. In World War II, we named beaches: Sword, Utah, Omaha, for example, Red Beach, Green Beach. They designate these with letters, so X, Y, and Z beaches, V and W beaches. These are the most famous down here, W Beach and V Beach. If you've been to Gallipoli, that's probably the first stop on your tour. They're defended against invasion by the Third Corps. That's Esat Pasha. He looks a lot like the American actor Sam Elliott. Very experienced, general staff officer, trained, a brilliant soldier. There's Esat Pasha again with his staff on Maltepe. That's what a Turkish staff looks like. You can see the headquarters are well camouflaged. Turkish soldiers in trenches, well supported by artillery. Okay, V Beach today. That's about 2 football fields, 2 American football fields in width. It's a tiny, tiny beach. And I'm standing on a position where the Ottoman soldiers with rifles are going to be dug in looking down at that beach. So when dawn breaks on April 25th, what happens is that beach looks like that. The British have run a ship called the River Clyde aground. They've cut holes in the sides of the ship for men to get out. And when the guys come down at this level, they're mowed down in droves by Turkish rifle fire. No machine guns, just simply riflemen. It's a disaster. Over on Anzac, thought I had W Beach here. Pardon me, I've taken out W Beach. Anzac, the Australians. This is the more famous landing of the bunch in terms of the American view of this particular fight. We have a kind of a affinity, soft spot for Australians. So if Americans know about Gallipoli, they tend to know about Anzac Beach more than Cape Helles. They're supposed to land on a big wide beach called Z Beach, nicknamed Brighton Beach. They miss. The reasons are contentious. Tides are wrong, midshipmen get lost, heavy fire. Whatever happens, they land in a little cove here that's subsequently known as Anzac Cove. This is where Mustafa Kemal comes in the picture. This is how we remember Mustafa Kemal, primarily in the United States. He's the one who marshals the forces that stop the Australians. That's Anzac Beach. It's about as big as a football field. It's about as narrow as a 2-lane highway. When you get off the beach, you go straight up in this rugged terrain. Mustafa Kemal and the Turks are waiting at the top. You can imagine what it's like. It's dark. You get off on the beach. You're trying to fight your way up. You've never been here before. and at the top are Turks, and this thing goes nowhere. At the end of the first day, they're ready to leave. So, what happens? This thing goes on. Not here, but on top of the bluffs, the trench lines set in, and the trench lines set in at Cape Helles. So what happens after April 25th is the plan stalemates. All of a sudden, the Brits at Cape Helles, the Australians, New Zealanders at Anzac Beach have the same problem here that the British Expeditionary Force has in France. There's no man's land and trenches and barbed wire and machine guns. And there are now costly trench warfare battles that are fought between these forces that go from April to May to June to July, and almost an endless series of frontal attacks. And they fail. The Allies fail to advance. Turkish counterattacks fail to push the Allies into the sea, and it sets in. What happens then? You know, this is one of those Dr. Phil things, again, where the strategic leaders say to themselves, how's that working for you? And the answer is, it's not. And what happens is, by June and July, rapid victory has not been achieved. Stalemate has set in, and they've got the same thing going on here. They're wasting lives trying to cross no man's land that they're trying to do in France. This is why they went to Gallipoli, was to avoid that mess. So here they are, stuck again in the same dynamic that happens in France. The war council, those guys, Churchill and Kitchener and Asquith and all the gang, have some decisions to make. We can leave, we can let it go like it is, or we can up the ante, we can add forces. This is almost like playing slot machines in Las Vegas. You put in X amount of dollars or X amount of quarters, and you get sunk costs. You get so heavily invested that your tendency, the human tendency, is to put more in and keep on going, because it just takes one more dollar to turn those wheels, and you're successful. So the choice is to reinforce the effort. They don't understand the reasons for failure. They don't understand, nobody understands in 1915 quite how to solve the tactical dilemma. Nobody will figure this out until 1917. So they miss the boat. They think, well, we need more artillery, or we need more careful planning, or we need better maps. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why they misunderstand what's happening. But they all, not just the war council, but the Russians, the Germans, the French, nobody understands how to fix the dilemma of the trench warfare. So they decide to reinforce the effort. We're going to throw in more money into the pot in terms of soldiers. So Ian Hamilton has 5 divisions initially. By June, he's got 7. They're going to throw in 6 more, so they're going to double his forces. If you can't win with that, then we probably have a really serious problem. So now we're into August. So this is the 3rd campaign to try to solve this dilemma of breaking through the Dardanelles. The first campaign, a naval campaign, ships alone get through. The second campaign, we're going to take the Khalid Bahar Plateau, and instead of assaulting the forts with ships, we're looking down on them, and we take them out that way. This is yet a 3rd variant of how we might win this. These are very creative people. These are not stupid men. Our look back, if you will, at World War I generalship tends to fall into the lions led by donkeys school. Nothing could be farther from the truth. These are educated staff officers. They're the best men available at the time. They're heavily experienced in combat operations. Ian Hamilton has been judged by the German General Staff in 1913 to be the best qualified and most experienced soldier in the entire world. That's the guy. He's written a book on future war. He's written a book of poetry. He's been an observer in the Russo-Japanese War and written a staff officer's diary about operations. He's been wounded at Majuba Hill when he's a young officer and recommended for the Victoria Cross. I mean, this is that guy. This is that guy. And they're all like that. Well, Ian Hamilton comes up with yet another way to break the deadlock. Sometimes we call this Suvla Bay. There's several songs about this Suvla Bay thing. It really the best and more accurate term is the Anzac breakout. So there is a second amphibious invasion at Suvla Bay by the 9th Corps, but it's not the main effort. It's simply designed to gain space, to gain logistical ground to pile supplies, to help the Anzac. So this is all about the Anzac breakout, sometimes called Suvla Bay. There's the Anzac perimeter up there. And it starts like this, down at Cape Helles.